Good evening, everybody. It is Friday night, my friends, and I'm back and ready to tackle some more code in here tonight, and hope everyone is doing well. Hope you've all had a good holiday. For those of you who celebrated or are currently celebrating, hope everything's going well and everything's good, and we're all happy and healthy and kind of just chilling out. So I know I'm certainly chilling right now. It's a cold one tonight, friends. It's a cold one. Getting in the midst of a ice storm. But hopefully, oh man, I just hope everything just clears out completely tomorrow, because I got to drive on Sunday night or Sunday morning. I got to drive for an hour, and I don't want it to be a pain in the butt. So we'll see how it goes. But hopefully, I think we're supposed to get some rain tomorrow, and it's supposed to be a little bit warmer. So hopefully that'll just clear it all out. I certainly don't want to go out there and shovel ice, because it is literally like about an inch of ice. We're supposed to get 1 to 3 inches of snow, but I think it's pretty much all just ice right now from what I can see out there. About an inch of it. So yeah, not gonna be having a lot of fun with that. Let's put it that way. But anyway, welcome on in, everybody. Welcome. I am using my standing desk right now, so I've got the webcam turned off for a little while. Once I sit down a little bit later, I'll turn it back on. But I have been a busy code monkey off camera here, friends. I have completed 2 chapters. Chapter 11, which is post-processing stuff, and Chapter 12, which just basically spins up a demo GUI. GUI doesn't do really anything right now, but it just kind of gets it spun up and integrates it with the pipelines and all that stuff. So with Chapter 11, basically, Chapter 11 of this book covers all the ground you need to do in order to do FXAA, anti-aliasing, and probably other things as well along the way. But what they've done essentially is to have additional rendering classes, and so I will attempt to look at try to explain some of these. But basically, so we have the scene render, right? This is what we've been dealing with most of the time. Is just the scene renderer and everything that's going on here. And what has happened is there's a few little changes here, mostly to how we have to handle attachments and things like that along the way, but not mostly. Generally speaking, this is mostly still intact. Where it comes into play, though, is we now have a let me go to I want to look at the Vulkan renderer, I think. Yeah. So in here, where we call rendering, let me see if I can find it here. So we have render here. All right, and then here is where things start to depart quite a bit. So we call our scene render like we did before, but now we've got a post-processing render, a GUI render, which is the Chapter 12 stuff. I'll get to that in a minute. Post-processing renderer, which does our basically our FXAA and any other post-processing we would do later on. And then, hey, Tech, welcome on in. It's going well. It's going well. How you doing? How's your holiday been? Um, and then we have at the end here a swap chain renderer, which takes whatever comes out of the post processing render and deals with that as well. And a lot of these renderers are, I went through and wrote all the code that they had, and I feel like a lot of these are, even though they're smaller than the scene renderer, they have a lot of very similar code in them. And I'm honestly surprised that they didn't like make an abstract renderer and then just kind of move some of the common code into that. Maybe there's just enough difference in the things that they couldn't do that. I don't know. This is definitely something I'm going to look at when we do another pass over all this and try to refactor a bit. Just got Factorio, been having a ton of fun with it. Oh, cool. Yeah, thank you. Thanks. I appreciate it. Yeah, I've been looking through the Steam sales and stuff. There's a lot of stuff that's like 80% off and things like that. It's been really good. I don't know. Factorio is. I keep getting hot and cold when it goes to Factorio. Like, it's definitely the type of game that I would like, but there's something about it that just constantly, like, I've watched a lot of people play Factorio, and I don't know, there's just something about it where I just, like, I sort of bounce off of it. I don't know why. It's the very kind of game that I would enjoy, but there's just something about it that I don't find compelling. I don't know why. And yet, what I want to do, though, is I do want to go back to Dyson Sphere program at some point and play that, because it's been a while since I've dug into that, and that was like in early access when I dug into that. I don't know if it's still early access or not, but yeah, I know it has like a multiplayer aspect to it too and stuff. I don't know. There's just something about that I don't know if I'm intimidated by it, or if it's just, I don't know. It's weird because it's got a lot of quality of life and stuff. It's got a ton of mods. And I don't know. There's something that just throws my brain off with it. I don't know what it is. You have Dyson, just never played it? Yeah, I played it back when it was early access. I think it's still early access. But I'm curious to see how far along it has come from where it was, because it was actually pretty far along the last time I played it. Like, there was a lot of hours of content in there, so I don't know what's happened with it since then. But yeah, there was that. I was looking at that. Like, I'd like to get back to that maybe some point. And I was looking around for like some more building stuff. I think I wishlisted the one you had mentioned last time, the mining one. I think I wishlisted that. I believe, or maybe I made a bookmark of it. I don't remember. I have that on the list at least. But yeah, it's I don't know. There's a lot of I need something that will kind of I don't know, get its hooks into me, kind of a thing. And I don't know what that is yet. I'm still on a RPG kick right now. Like, I got a lot of RPGs in my head that I just want to keep getting through. I don't know why I'm on an RPG kick. I guess it's all the nostalgia around the Dragon Quest 1 and 2 stuff. Maybe that's got me on the RPG kick again, but just a lot of that going on in my brain. So we'll see. Um, um, so yeah, a lot of these renderers that they have you put in here, a lot of them have very, at least they may not be copy pastes of code, but they're very, very similar in what they're doing. If it was a copy paste, there would probably be at least some warnings here about it, but I get the feeling like a lot of this can be kind of not made generic, but a lot of it could be like reused as we're going along and doing stuff. So I have those. This is there was something here. They said they don't really explain. So they explained that there's this thing called specialization constants, which is another big thing that we've added in here, which basically is a way to change, like have variables that the shaders can access and be able to change those variables at runtime. So in other words, there's a shader here that does the FXAA anti-aliasing. And let me see if I can find it. So that would be the post-processing fragment shader. And there's a whole big formula that it goes through and stuff to do the FXAA stuff. And at the top here, it's got this variable, use FXAA. So basically, this can get set at runtime, turned on and turned off while the game is running. And based on that, it will determine whether or not we do any FXAA at all, or if we just skip it and just go on to the next. I think if it's 0, we just set the fragment color to whatever the gamma is, and then return. So there's a little bit of like gamma correction, kind of sorta in there. So that's part of what setting up a lot of this stuff here in the shader modules and things. And there was a little bit of code to do that and putting it into the pipeline and everything. And then it was, we changed the scene render class to use swap chain images instead of having its own attachment. So that's where the swap chain stuff comes in, because what you want to do is basically scene render is now like the swap chain is now like you're taking an image. Scene render is rendering an image attachment, and then the post processor is taking that image, which is basically the screen, applying stuff to it, FXAA, gamma, whatever, and then the swap chain is taking that image and swapping it into video memory and out. So into the active video memory and all that stuff is what I'm gathering is how this seems to work. And so what they're doing is they're basically chaining all these things together and saying like, okay, the renderer just deals with pulling models, creating the models, creating the 3D models, putting them in the space, doing all that stuff, rendering the textures on them. The post-processing then gets to look at all those textures and all the lighting and everything else, and it gets to do its thing. And then the swap chain, and then at the end of that is an image that we want to, to show to the screen, and that's where the swap chain comes in and just prepares it for display onto the screen, and then swaps in the next image and swaps in the next image, and so on and so forth. That's how I'm gathering that this is put together, which makes sense. I was a little bit surprised when I did this chapter that we'd have all these renderers, but now that I kind of see them, after I've gone through and put them together and everything, I can kind of see what they're going for. But like I said, I think there are some bits and pieces that are of code there that's really very similar between one renderer and the next. So I do want to go through at some point and just sort of see if I can consolidate some things a little bit more. But that's basically what this whole chapter was. And there was a lot of code in here, particularly in the shader. The shader had a ton of stuff. It has that entire FXAA algorithm in it. So it'll be interesting to come back to this after we're done the book here, and like I can go look to see what does it take to do like MXAA, TAA, you know, all that stuff. I don't even know if you can do those because they might be I mean, MXAA you can probably do, SMAA you can probably do. I don't know if you can do TAA or not, like if I can implement it, because I don't know what is encumbered by licenses and what is not. So that'll be an interesting topic to get into, like what kinds of anti-aliasing can I actually support, because there's a the algorithm is not encumbered by some kind of license agreement or something like that. So I don't know if that's even if there is any, but I'm just kind of tossing that out there because I noticed that like Unreal Engine games I think have TAA in them, but I have not seen that in other games. So I don't know if that's something Epic Games has cornered the market on, or you know, what have you on that, or if it's just simply some other reason. Should be making a few videos for YouTube and Rumble on switching to Linux for gaming and more, and get a ton of views. How many now are moving to it? Yeah, I've noticed that there's a lot more people. Like I think Bazite put out a post saying that they not only have their downloads gone into the petabyte range, but their new users, like the amount of users who've gone through the full install and everything else, has also increased. So it's not just that their downloads have increased, the number of users using the Bazite has increased dramatically. So I think, yeah. And once the Steam Machine is revealed, its price is revealed, and you can start to buy it, I think we're gonna really see like how much appetite there is for people to just get off of Windows, at least for gaming. I mean, they might be stuck on Windows for other things, but to get off of Windows for gaming would be huge, you know? $2.1 million moved to Bazite in the last month. Yeah, that's last 6 months. Yeah, I couldn't remember how much it was, but I remember they said like it was a significant jump. Windows 12 may drop and be a subscription. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't put it past Microsoft. I mean, I remember when they said Windows 10 would be the last Windows. That didn't last very long. I don't know. It's such a... It is very... I know we toss around the word enshittification a lot in the technology realm, but truly, this is the first time I can sit back and go, Microsoft has become the pinnacle of enshittification. Right? It's like they pivoted hard into AI stuff, and you know, Microsoft used to be like they would get into a field. They wouldn't be the greatest thing in the field, but they would get into there. They would make a market hit, a market play, take over a few smaller companies, and then before you knew it, they had the market cornered. You know, they would, you know, come in, lowball everybody, corner the market, and then be the only thing. With AI, I think they were trying to do the same thing, but they have completely fumbled in like every possible aspect that you could completely fumble in. They made the mistake of drinking their own Kool-Aid, and it turns out it it wasn't very healthy for them, and now everything is just going to shit with Windows, you know? Back in the day of like 98 SE, that was some of the best of days. Yeah. I mean, I loved Windows 2000. Like, I remember very clearly there were several times when I reinstalled Windows 2000, and the out of the box, off the CD Windows 2000 would start up in like 30 seconds, and it was beautiful. And then it would then download Service Pack 2, and suddenly everything was slow again. But it was still stable, but it was a hell of a lot slower. Windows 7 was really good. Probably the best of the new crop. Like, I would say Windows 7 and Windows 10 are fairly similar to one another in like that sort of generation of stuff. And Windows 10 was okay. Windows 7 I think was better in every respect of the term. And then they just kind of like went off a freaking cliff here. And it's interesting to see because no one pushed them off the cliff. It was just their own incompetence, which is crazy to me because you've got so many, like, as much as I can shit on Google and Microsoft and Oracle and to a lesser extent IBM, they still have some really intelligent, some really talented people, particularly, not just development wise, but also like in some of their middle management there. And I don't know what the hell happened. It's like everybody simultaneously had a brain fart and they haven't yet recovered from it. Like, I don't know what maybe they had a wave of retirements. Maybe everybody like said, "Hey, my stock is vested. I'm out. I'm taking an early retirement." I don't know what happened, but like they have suddenly just done this weird 180 where they just like nobody has pushed them, nobody has forced their hand. They have just done the worst unforced error I think I have ever seen. Like they've killed Xbox. Like nobody, like Sony didn't kill Xbox, Nintendo didn't kill Xbox, Microsoft killed Xbox just for being dumb about things, right? And now they're killing Windows again by being dumb about things. Linux didn't kill Windows. Linux has been around forever. Windows has been around for longer than Linux, and Linux is not killing Windows. Windows is killing Windows, and Office, the whole Office 365 thing. I mean, that's about the only thing Microsoft still has a monopoly on. And I mean, there are alternatives that are decent enough, but they're not well known. They haven't penetrated the market the way that Microsoft 365 has. But like, if Windows continues to get worse and worse, I'd be interested to know how much worse Windows has to get before company IT departments start looking at an alternative, which unfortunately is going to probably be Mac, which is going to make me cry, bitterly cry, because Apple is not a solution to any problem. It's just a problem that creates more problems. Because I don't think I would be very shocked if companies, especially software development companies, went to Linux for anything, because they'll use Linux in the server all day every day. But like for desktop stuff, like those IT departments are just, I think Linux just scares the shit out of them. I don't know why Mac doesn't scare the shit out of them. It should. But I think it's because they could just say, oh, well, we'll just pay for Apple Care and everything will be fine. Which is the biggest lie you can ever tell yourself. So I don't know. Wait, Mac, what? I was talking to my wife. Oh, it was, I was saying that with Windows, I was wondering out loud, like, with how bad Windows is getting, how bad does Windows have to further get, before IT departments in software companies and technology companies start looking for an alternative? And I said, the worst thing that they could do, and they'll probably do, is to switch to Apple. Because I will absolutely hate every minute of that. I don't think, they'll use Linux all day, every day in the server and in the cloud. But like, as far as having it on workstations, it would be a really hard sell to get them to go to Linux workstations. Have you seen how so many new games support Mac and not Linux? I noticed that there's a lot of posts like on Steam and stuff about people saying, hey, you're going to do Mac support, hey, you're going to do Mac support. Which I think is kind of... I almost view that as a complete waste of time. It's like... I don't know. I get that there are people who use it, but it's the problem with Apple from a development perspective is that you can't just build something and have it run. You have to do all kinds of weird security licensing stuff. So like, because I looked at it a little bit for like the Java stuff, and like I could generate, a binary for Mac, but it won't run on a Mac because it needs a license key, like a secure key, in order to properly be compiled. And the only way to do that is to be in the Apple ecosystem, and you have to pay for, not only do you have to buy a Mac, because you have to be in their ecosystem, so you have to pay the Apple tax just to buy a Mac, but then you have to get like a developer license, they have to do some whatever review they have to do. Then you have to use not VS Code, but the equivalent on Apple. They have a code editor that they use. I can't think of the names of it right now. In order to generate the license key, and then once you've generated that, then you can pull that into your development cycle and then build it there. But it's got to be. You have to build it on a Mac. You can't build it on a Linux or on a Windows PC, even though it's Java and everything else. It has to be built there. It's like this whole walled ecosystem is just an absolute pain in the ass to do from a development perspective. And so it's like, I feel like there's no point unless you're using something. I mean, even if you're using an existing engine that already supports Mac and stuff, like, it's still, I think you still have to jump through a whole bunch of hoops to get anything deployed on there, Your work still has stuff with XP and Windows 7 running on machines. Oh yeah, I think it's going to be a big thing that a lot of places are going to pay for the extended support, and it'll just turn into like sort of a Microsoft tax because they don't want to. They can't switch over, or there's no equivalent software yet on other machines and all that stuff. You tell them to switch to Linux to give me a copy of software, let me make it work on Linux. Yeah, and honestly, I think there's just a culture of fear there, because a lot of these, especially in IT, a lot of these guys, you know, some of them have certifications like MCSE and all that stuff, and all they really have known is Windows. You know, some of them might dabble in Linux here and there, but they won't seriously do it. And there's so much more, because you have so many different Linux distros and stuff, there's so much more you have to understand in Linux than you do in Windows. Windows just kind of takes care of a lot of stuff for you, right? And so I think there's just a giant culture of fear that they're going to get stuck in a place where they can't fix something because they don't know how it works. And I think that's what's preventing the Linux adoption, a lot of it. And in fairness to them, Linux is not doing anyone any favors by being easier to manage. You know, Ubuntu was kind of getting there, and it's a lot of places will give Ubuntu, you know, the time of day, but you know, they're still not exactly the greatest thing around either. You know? They have them behind a Linux server with no internet output, but network. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Apps with like Winboat and Winamp and Lutris. So many things we switched to run in Linux. Steam run Windows apps before. Yeah, oh yeah. And I think, and that's the thing, right? I think a lot of that is still not known by a wider audience. Is that you can get a lot of these things working and stable at that. And all that's getting better every day. But there's just not enough. There's not enough people in the know, and also there's a lot of. Microsoft almost has kind of the. Not even almost. I think they have a lot of the IBM effect, right? Where in the insurance industry, there's a well-known adage that anyone who went big blue, which was IBM, never went wrong. And so IBM has like a huge foothold, or at least it did years ago, in the insurance industry because of that sort of reputation around them. And I think in IT, it's very much Microsoft. Even though Microsoft is getting worse and worse every day, they still have enough of a security blanket that it's going to be really hard to let for others to come in and be like, hey, actually, we're a lot better, we're a lot more stable. You know, it's going to be hard to convince people of that, especially since IT is always a cost center. A lot of CEOs look at their IT thing as just a cost center, and so they don't want to spend any money on anything. They just want it to just work, and they would rather pay a license fee to Microsoft than to actually pay for employees that understand what they're doing and can, or pay to have their employees trained on Linux so that they can, better manage and control, all of their systems. And also, there's the other part of that too, which is clients can be real sticklers for things. One of the things that we have to deal with, and this is something I've had to deal with in every company that I worked for, is a lot of our clients who are buying the software, they will have a set of questions and a set of like yearly checkups and stuff, where like, do any of your developers have access to production data? Who has access to production data? Who, is there any personally identifiable information that you're holding on to? Blah, blah, blah. They'll do security checks and stuff on us and everything, as far as the software is concerned and whatnot. I mean, hell, I even had, like, there was even, when I was working in insurance, one of the insurance companies that we were going to do business with insisted that everyone touching code that was going to go to them had to have their fingerprints on file and all kinds of stuff. It was just nuts. Which was a big kerfuffle, because it was like, like this doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but that's what they insisted upon, as part of like doing a deal with you. And it's and so some of that too is what I'm getting at there, is that a lot of times these companies will stay with Windows because the clients they're selling their software to insist that they be on Windows, because then they can do proper audits and all that stuff. And it's just like, it's such this weird, crazy ecosystem of nonsense you have to navigate sometimes. Yeah. They're scared of change. Yeah, exactly. And they're scared of if it has an unknown return on investment, or if it's going to, like I said, IT is usually a cost center. If it's going to cost more than it did last year to manage it, then they don't want to hear about it. It's always hilarious to me that you have software companies, their entire business model is around creating custom software for companies, and they refuse to upgrade their infrastructure. They're on this weird, crazy amalgamation of email, servers, or they just like they don't want to spend any money on the very technology that is driving their business. The underlying support technology that's driving their business. It's a bit nutso. You found a CNC Linux distro all for heavy machine stuff? Yeah, there's stuff out there. Yeah, I don't know. It's just, I mean, I think the AI bubble kind of exemplifies the messed up thought processes at the tops of companies, right? Where it's not about logic and good decision making and good planning. It's all about how can we get more money than our competitors, right? It's like how can we how can we play on the fears on the how do we court the investors, kind of thing. Um, oh, investors want this now. Well, we should be we should be doing that. Oh, investors want that. Oh, we should be doing that now. It's like you're just chasing bandwagons. That's all it is. They don't know jack squat about the business that they're running. They're just chasing trends, and it's just the silliest thing in the world. You know, it's also frustrating. It's very frustrating, especially when all of your, you know, when all of your knowledgeable people are trying to tell you, as forcefully as possible, that you're making bad decisions and you need to listen to them. You know? Hi, is it really Cashy OS? Do you love it? I'm not running Cashy OS. I am running. I'm running Debian, and yeah, I've been working really good for me. I haven't had any issues with it. You know, for games and both games and programming and stuff. Yeah. And I also have a smaller computer that has Bakelite on it that I will occasionally switch over to and play games on there. Yeah, both of them have been working really well. I haven't had any particular issues. I mean, I don't play a lot of multiplayer games, so you know, I don't have to worry about the anti-cheat stuff so much. But you know, for everything else, it's been really good. Hey, Disklink, welcome. Just think, when I drove truck and made government downloads to the marketplaces, you'd see all the info I had to give to do that. Oh yeah, no, I imagine. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that's that it's just weird sometimes that the kind of influence that companies want to inflict on other companies, like, oh, you want us to buy your software? Well, ho ho ho, you need us more than we need you, so here's all the hoops you need to jump through. It's like, and some of them make sense. We have some companies that actually run their own penetration testing against, you know, or security scans, automated security scans against software that they're using. And, you know, oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes they'll find stuff that our pen testers didn't find, you know, because apparently the clients will spend more money on pen testers than we will as the ones making the damn software. Which is just, we got I think we have another whole round of that coming up too. It'll be interesting to see what they don't find there. The good thing we are, like, all my colleagues and stuff have been doing this for decades, so we're all pretty on the ball when it comes to, like, security stuff. I mean, everybody misses something, which is why we have automated tests, automated things that run. But, like, if we were all junior developers, it would be pretty rough. It would be pretty darn rough, because there'd be a lot of stuff that I don't think the penetration testers would have. There's a lot of stuff the penetration testers haven't found that we've found. You know, I even had I'll never forget this. I had a penetration tester, like, they wanted a meeting with us, and I was on the meeting, and they're like, hey, we're trying to use our automated tools to scan your application, and our automated tools are failing to scan it, like they're just sitting there for hours and hours not getting anywhere. And I said, oh, that's sucks to be you, I guess, but so what would you like me to do about it? And they're like, well, you see, the problem is whenever we try to send your application data that is invalid, you guys log us out immediately, and so it breaks our workflow. I'm like, well, yeah, because if the only way you can send us invalid data is by manipulating the HTML page, and of course, if you're manipulating the HTML page, then we don't want you in the system. We want to kick you out. That's part of our security. Like, well, but that's breaking our security scanner. I'm like, well, I guess you're going to have to fix your security scanner then, because I'm not changing that. It's just like silliness like that. Just, on the one hand, I can laugh about it now, but on the other hand, at the time, I was like, you've got to be freaking kidding me. You've got to be kidding me. Just go to uranium storage in New Mexico and the old copper mine. It's wild, all the checks you have to go through just to make, delivery from, Why would I imagine? Because it's, at that point though, I mean, you're physically going on to a secure site, probably too. I think the thing that made us balk the most about the security checks for us is that there were a few people who were going on site, and it made sense for them to get fingerprinted and stuff. But they wanted fingerprints from people who were never going to go on site, who weren't even necessarily working on their project. They were just kind of happened to be in the system, which we had, like a couple dozen developers. And we're like, no. And they wanted to fingerprint the entire development staff. I'm like, no, this is silly. This is silly. Like, you want, we might touch some code that ends up in your system because it's in a shared code base, but you're gonna have to, not go on a fishing expedition. You're gonna have to just stick to the people who are going to go on site and be on site to help you integrate. And I think they eventually did push back and got it all straightened out. But for a hot minute there, they were like ready to fingerprint and urine sample everybody. I think I even said to my boss, I was like, dude, if you start taking regular urine samples of people, you're probably going to get results you don't want to get. because developers are an eccentric bunch. you may get answers you don't particularly want to live with. You might lose out on some really talented developers because they took a little bit of the devil's lettuce. For that, it's worse. Going into a restricted area, you have to go into 6 restricted areas, unload, and pass through 1. Yeah, exactly. What do you think? Trucking is the same? Yeah, it's true. It's true. I'm not saying it's not the same thing for trucking. I'm just saying that it makes sense if you're, to me at least, it makes sense if you're going on site. If you're going into a secure location, I can understand it. I don't necessarily agree with it in certain cases, but I can understand the thought process. But when you're never going anywhere near it, you're thousands of miles away, it gets a little more a little more flaky in my brain. That. But then again, I was on the other side of that fence where I was like, I'm not going to this client. Why the hell do you want me to? I was the architect, but like, why do you want, you know, why do you want a full medical workup on me? you know? Hey, Zadok, welcome. Welcome on in. Of this topic, I just graduated recently with my associates in applied science for CIS. Been applying entry-level help desk jobs. Ah, I gotcha. Yeah. Yeah, it's there's a lot of I've worked at mostly small companies, small to medium sized companies. I tended to gravitate towards like startups and stuff, and then a lot of the startups I worked for, a couple of the startups I worked for disappeared. But the first one I worked for kind of grew pretty well. They were still small by industry standards, but they were, I got in like on the ground floor. There was like maybe 15, 20 people when I joined them, and they grew to like, I want to say 200 or 300, something like that. So it was very interesting to, like, I got experience there that I don't think a whole lot of people ever get, right? Like, you get into a company, and it's usually a well-established company, and you're just kind of a cog in the machine. But when you go into like a small company where you have to deal with the suits essentially and all of their eccentricities, and just kind of let water be under the bridge kind of thing, and you get to see a lot closer. Like, you tend to wear more hats that you wouldn't normally wear, and you get a closer up view, a closer view of like how other things kind of work in a company and other departments that you might not have ever seen. And it really does kind of give you a different perspective on things, on how stuff kind of ebbs and flows in a company and stuff. It's also, it can be very rewarding because a lot of times you get to, because you're wearing multiple hats, you get to learn a lot of different things. It's also scary because you don't know if your paycheck's going to be there next week. And it's also annoying as hell because you're dealing with a lack of process, and there's a lot of people, and I think this is not just not just a programming thing. I'm sure there's other people in other industries that have the same problem, but there's a lot of people that don't deal with a lack of structure very well. Like, they need some structure underneath them. They need like processes and well-defined flows and stuff in order to thrive. And none of that usually exists in a small company. You're lucky if they're doing source control correctly. You don't really have nobody has made an automated script to deploy the stuff because everyone's been so busy that no one's had the time to do it. So everything is kind of manual. You have this checklist of things to go through to try to make sure you didn't forget something. And damn if you didn't, like, you do forget something from time to time, and then you gotta, get up and do things, or the CEO is trying to sell your application to a new client, and they tell you like the day before, by the way, this client wants to see feature X, and you're like, what is feature X? And they're like, just make something that looks halfway decent, and it does this, right? Like you have almost no requirements. You have no time to do anything. You're often up at like 2 a.m. trying to get something done. There were demos. There were demo days where they were literally out at a client on site, ready to give a marketing demo, and they were still writing code to get a certain feature or something to look like it's working properly. 5 minutes before they're about to go into the boardroom and talk with them. It's there's a level of stress there that you don't get anywhere else. But of course, the flip side of that, there's a level of reward there you don't usually get anywhere else either. And by reward, I mean personal reward, not monetary reward. If anything, you'll get screwed out of more money in a smaller company, in a small startup, than you will anything else, because they'll try anything in the book to attract attract fresh blood in there. We'll just give you all these stock options, or we'll give you this, or we'll give you that, and then I can tell you the first company I worked at, they were very insistent. At some point, they rolled out an employee stock purchase program. They were privately held, but they rolled out an employee stock purchasing program, and they insisted that everyone had to get in on it, and they had to do automatic debits and all that stuff. And I think what was happening was they were trying to, they spun it as like, this is good for you, you'll have stake in the company and all this stuff, but I think they were trying to inflate their numbers a little bit, because after they did that, I think like a year or so after they rolled that out, or 2 years after they rolled that out, something like that, they sold the company to Oracle, and they mentioned to Oracle, oh, well, we have, this employee stock purchase program, so employees have stake in the company and all that stuff. And Oracle's like, no, they don't. We're not paying them out. all that money that went into that stock purchase program that came out of our paychecks and went into it went to nowhere. It disappeared. Had it not been for, like, that company had 3 co-owners. One of the 3 co-owners was like, this is not right. And he took part of his payout, the 1/3 of, the part of his payout for selling the company, and he put it aside in an annuity, and he said, had that annuity pay out to all the employees based on how much stock they had bought over the next couple of years. If he hadn't done that, we wouldn't have gotten jack and or shit of it. So that was like that. It's that kind of shit that like companies will pull off, like smaller companies especially will pull that, because you don't really. They know that you're young and naive and don't really understand what's going on, and a big company comes in, snarfs them up, and they're not beholden to anything. Hey, ZeroFX, welcome. Like to meme coins on Web3. Yeah. Experience farming, get more IT jobs. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But if you work on stuff that goes to those places, even software, it's treated the same as going into the place itself sometimes for security reasons. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is sometimes. I'm doing good. Doing good. I am. I don't have my webcam on right now because I'm standing. I have my standing desk on right now, and I don't have my webcam angled in such a way that my face shows up properly. When I'm standing, you'll just see the bottom of my chin. Once I sit down, I'll turn it back on again. But yeah, it's going good. I'm just kind of rolling through like what I've worked on a bunch off camera here for the game engine. At least as far as these chapters are concerned. So I got all of chapter 11 done, which is the post-processing stuff. So FXAA, which means basically all the anti-aliasing, all the jagged edges that were on the edges of some of the textures are now smoothed over a bit. So that's nice. And then chapter 12, which I just finished prior to going live here, kind of just introduces GUI concepts. Now the GUI that they're bringing in, this ImGUI library, you'll probably be familiar with it if you've ever seen Reshade, because it's basically the same thing that Reshade uses. If you've used that to like mod other games that you've used. So it's called Dear ImGUI, and it looks like this. And they kind of bring this in as a way to, like, you know, you have to have your own render, an additional render to do the GUI stuff, and you have to handle the keystrokes that go on there and all that stuff. So I'll actually, let me pull that up right now. Also, what is this? There's a warning here. Applies gamma correction by its own, so it's very important to render to a format that does not apply also gamma correction automatically to avoid applying it twice. Oh, okay. All right. I was wondering what that was. So if we look at, so I've got chapter 12 stuff here. So if I run this, you can see we've got our normal screen, our scene that we've loaded. I've changed the mouse to be right-click like they have it in the other things. So right-click and drag. You can drag the view around. It's still a little bit, it's not, there's still some less than smooth parts of it, but I don't know if I'm having the same, if the other program has the same issue or not, the books program or not. But you can see there's a little test window that shows up here, which is their part of that image GUI library. But if I hit escape, it'll bring up the full menu, and this is just their demo menu that just kind of shows you like all the different things you can do. There's nothing like, none of this is wired in or anything. It's just kind of a built-in demo that it comes with, so you can kind of see how all the different features and widgets and all that stuff, and like mouse inputs and focus and all that. But something that I've done arguably better than what the code in the book has done is when you're in the menu here, I can't do WASD. I can't move the scene around. I can't like right click on the scene. All of that stuff is disabled because I've put a state machine in while the menu's open. But as soon as I hit escape here, I can now, oops, go through, although I'm going really super fast here. I now move around the scene again. That is, if I go and close this out and I bring up the books example here, chapter 12, and I run that, you see they have this come up this way immediately. But they also you can toggle it with their thing, but they don't disable the keys, so you can see I'm still moving things around. So arguably they're doing it worse, but you know, neither here nor there right now. So I just wanted to show that. That's kind of where we're at right now. The next chapter, from what I've seen, deals with audio. So I'd like to maybe start to jump into that a little bit here. I think first of all, I put chapter 12 on a branch. I'm going to get the branch down to pull the branch down to main. So let's go here. just want to check out Maine. Yeah. And I want to go and I want to go merge that down. So I'm going to go chapter 12 here. To pull requests. Hey, hello, welcome on in. How you doing? What about arrow keys, like old school RPG games? So the arrow keys, right now it's just the up and down arrow key, and that just increases the elevation or decreases the elevation right now. But you can map all of them like normal too, as well. So we'll do this. It's got these two commits, 19 change files. All right, pull requests and squash and merge. There you go. So that should all be down on, yeah, chapter 12 changes are down on there now. Cool. So I should be able to go get the latest here. There you go. Cool. All right. So let's put this half of these here. And let's close all these out so we don't get super confused. And let me go edit before I forget here. It's chapter 13, and the working directory should be chapter 13. Oh. And then I wonder, do they have... So go to chapter 13 of the book. So sound with OpenAL, and I think they have some sounds that they load in. I noticed some sounds in their thing there. But obviously they don't have a visual of it because it's sound. I'm doing good. I'm doing good, Outlaw. Everything's good. We are in the midst of a ice storm here in Pennsylvania. So it is cold as fuck here right now. And it's like we were supposed to get 1 to 3 inches of snow, but I just poked my head out earlier and we've got like an inch of just slush. So it's just ice right now. So fun stuff. I'm hoping, I think tomorrow it's supposed to warm up a little bit and we're supposed to get rain, so hopefully it'll just kind of wash a lot of that away. Because Sunday I got another family thing to do. I got another hour to drive, so I really don't want to be messing around with ice and snow and all that stuff. Plus I think I have to go to New Jersey, so I think they're getting hit worse than we are right now. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Yeah, but hopefully everything will just be smooth sailing. I mean, it's funny to like. It gets really crazy around here the days leading up to Christmas, because there's just like traffic like crazy. And then Christmas Day, I go to drive down to my brother's house I get out on the road and there is nobody. There is nobody on the road anywhere. I'm like, this is beautiful. Like I've got the whole road to myself. I could drive any speed I want to. This is some good stuff right here. That and Thanksgiving Day are basically the same thing. Everybody's already gotten their traveling done. They're already where they're supposed to be for the most part, and like the roads are just smooth sailing. Every other day, it's changeable to be as cordial as I could be there. Going to Dad's was dead, and the way back home is at like 7:30 was packed. Yeah. It's some. There's a. Traffic is just very fluid. Like you think, oh, I'm going to avoid rush hour, and it'll be a little bit better ride, and it's like, I'm not even sure rush hour exists anymore. I think every hour is now rush hour. At some point, I think we went from like 1.5 cars per family to like 6 cars per family. It's just it has multiplied. The cars have had cars. They're breeding. But yeah. Then again, like a lot of the road infrastructure around here, like it's a running joke, at least in southeastern PA, that like every road that's been built has been out of date as soon as it was completed. It's like as soon as the road is completed, it's already not good enough. It's like it doesn't matter how much they expand, how many times they redo the interchanges and the exchanges, it's just not enough. All right. So, yes, let's look at the OpenAL stuff. Now, I have looked a little bit in the distant past when I first kind of dabbled a little bit in OpenGL stuff when I was writing C in college. I think OpenAL was like brand spanking new back then, and I like kind of sort of looked a little bit at it, but I don't think I got very far in it. So there might be some things that I recognize here, or it might be completely and utterly different. But I guess we'll find out. Let me do a comparison between the chapter 12. Between the chapter 12 code and chapter 13 book code, so I can see better what they have actually changed, since they don't show everything that they've changed in the actual writing of the book. All right, so they're bringing in OpenAL, okay, and the native OpenAL drivers. All right, so we'll have to do that. Start out with that first off here. So the top portion here is the book code. So I'll do a look for POM XML, and we want chapter 13. I'll open up my POM here. All right, so where do they got OpenAL? There it is. So where are we at here? These are the natives. So I gotta go up a little bit. VMA, I'll do it after VMA here. Say dependency. And I want org LWJGL. I want LWJGL OpenAL. And the version is just brought in from the dependency management section. So I need to put that there. And then we need the native for it. So I'll put that down here. And that will be probably the same thing, except it'll have a classifier. Yeah, there you go. So org LWJGL AL and just need classifier. Natives. So what the classifier does, for those wondering, this needs to be scope runtime. I think these all runtime scope? They might be. I should probably mark them as runtime scope. We'll do that eventually. That'll become important later when I actually build an artifact. So this is Maven. POM files and stuff are basically, think of them as manifests that tell the Maven build system all the different third-party libraries that I need to be brought down in order for my code to work properly. So in the case of LWJGL, which is the overarching library that I'm using, they have a bunch of different dependencies that you bring in based on what you need and what you don't need. So it's like, even though LW, the lightweight Java game library, is itself a library, it's broken up into many different pieces because you may not need all the different pieces. So for instance, I'm not going to do OpenGL stuff anymore, so I can eventually eliminate all the OpenGL dependencies and stuff because I won't need them. I'm doing all the Vulkan stuff and things like that. So that's why I have all these listed out. Now, for LWJGL, there's two components because the lightweight Java game library, even though it's Java and there's a Java component to it, it mostly wraps around compiled C code libraries. So binaries that were written in C. Or other languages, but basically other binaries that are not in Java. And so what I need to do in a lot of these cases is I need not only the Java dependencies, but I need the dependencies that it wraps around. And a lot of those, because they are compiled in different languages, they have different binaries based on what operating system you're on. And that's where the way they've done it here is they've added a classifier to those dependencies, which in our case just translates to either natives-Linux or natives-Windows, depending on where we're at. So if I was on my Windows box right now, that would say native-Windows, right? This is based on what operating system you're on right now. And what that's basically doing is it's saying, when you go to bring down these binaries, bring down the Linux binaries, don't bring down the Windows binaries, because I'm running on Linux right now. I could build for Windows on Linux. I'll just tell it to bring down the Windows binaries when it builds for the Windows exe, because those all get packaged up into the exe that then is used in Windows. Whereas on Linux, those all get packaged up into whatever I end up generating. Like, I'll probably generate a Debian. I'll probably generate depackaged stuff. So Debian, probably generate an RPM. And I think, I have to look, but I think there's techniques to do like an app image and a Flatpak. So I'll probably look into what those are eventually when we get to that point. But I just wanted to kind of explain why there's like two things in here. What does this file do? This file is also like, there's things at the bottom here to do. Check style is just like a plugin that checks to see that I'm writing code in a particular style. But there's plugins to create a jar file. There's a compiler plugin which basically says here's what Java version I'm targeting. I'm targeting 21, Java 21, stuff like that. So this Maven not only brings down all these dependencies for you that you need, but it also compiles your code into bytecode. It's not compiling it into binary code, it's compiling it into bytecode, which then is interpreted by Java when you run the program. So that's basically what this is all about. Now, Maven is kind of old school. I like Maven a lot. A lot of people use Gradle now, and there's nothing necessarily wrong with Gradle. It's just that I find that I don't find that Gradle does anything necessarily better. The documentation for Gradle might be better in some cases, because some of the documentation for Maven plugins can be a little bit crazy and weird, and certain plugins might be nicer in Gradle. But for the most part, Gradle just uses the Maven central repository to grab libraries down from and stuff like that. So it's just kind of a different flavor. It's a instead of doing everything in XML like we're doing here, you're doing it in a different DSL for that stuff. So yeah, different stroke for different folks. Both of these are very popular. Probably Gradle is maybe a little bit more popular because it's primarily what like Android Studio and stuff kind of push you towards when you're doing mobile apps and things like that. But in general, you know, both of them are well maintained and very relevant. And most IDEs will generate an empty shell for you of, you know, either Maven build or Gradle build, so you don't generally have to put too much thought into it usually, unless you're doing something wild and crazy with dependencies or transitive dependencies. Really, it comes down really where you start to run into like wacky issues where you need to know a lot about the build system is when it comes to transitive dependencies, which are dependencies of dependencies. So I depend on LWJGL VMA, right? But LWJGL VMA might depend on 5 or 10 other libraries, and it needs to bring those down as well so that it will work. I don't depend on them directly, but I depend on them indirectly because the VMA depends on them. So we call those transitive dependencies, meaning you need them down, you need them working, but you don't directly reference them, you indirectly reference them through something else. So, and you know, Gradle and Maven handle a lot of that stuff. They make sure they're not bringing down multiple copies. They make sure they're bringing down correct versions. The latest version usually is what wins out, tends to win out, and all that stuff, because a lot of these libraries will depend on will have the same transitive dependencies. So they might both depend on like Apache Commons, but VMA might bring in an older version of Apache Commons, whereas another library might bring in a newer one. And so usually Maven will pick the newer one and have the newer one just apply to both of them, so that you don't have two copies of it, which can cause all kinds of other problems. So yeah, stuff like that. Anyway, so that's a POM file. So they've got sound files. We'll bring those in later. And they've added a sound manager to their engine context. So I'll probably make that a singleton. And they've got a whole new folder called sound, and actually that's interesting. Okay. So they've got changes to their main, which makes sense. That's where they're gonna did they remove handle GUI? I guess they removed the GUI altogether. Well, that's fun. I'm not going to remove all the GUI stuff. Yeah, they did. They did all the GUI stuff for chapter 12, and then they're like, all right, chapter 13, we'll remove all that again. Like, no, I'll just disable it. I'm not going to remove it. So we'll see there. Plans this weekend? Yeah, well, tomorrow I don't want to do anything. Mostly because it's all ice out there right now, and slush. But I'll probably have to, depending on what the weather's like tomorrow, I'll probably have to at least get out there and try to push some of it with the shovel. I don't have any. I'm so well prepared for the winter time that I don't have any salt to throw down. So we're just gonna roll the dice on that one. I was looking online on Amazon at snowblowers. I have lived in this house for like 16 years now, and every single year the wintertime comes around and I'm like, I should probably get a snowblower. Most of the time that thought comes and goes, because while we've had a few bad winters that I've been here, they are usually like, you'll have like one bad winter where you have a lot of shoveling, and then the next bad winter is like 6 years later or something, right? So you have a lot of like relatively mild winters. You know, they might be cold, but they're not like, you're not getting a lot of snow and stuff. And without fail, every couple of years I come back to like, I should probably get a snow blower, so I'm not shoveling stuff manually. And so with this ice storm that's just going on now, I'm like, all right, maybe I should pull the trigger on it now, because one of the things, and this is true of like lawnmowers and stuff like that too. Like when I bought a lawnmower, I bought a corded electric lawnmower, which is fine. I have electrical outlets outside, no biggie. But I didn't, I know that the gas-powered lawnmowers are generally better, but I don't like keeping gas around. And I don't like the extra work you have to put into them to make sure they're winterized and all that stuff. Like I know me, and I know I'm too lazy to deal with that shit. Lazy enough that I actually just pay. Like my last lawnmower broke, and I was like, screw it, I'm just going to pay people to do my lawn. And I've been paying people to do my lawn every year since then. It's like, the hell with this. My time is better spent somewhere else. Um, I no regrets either on that. But the winter stuff with the snow blowers, I've always looked at it. I was like, I want to try to get a battery powered snowblower. But like every year I look at them, I'm like, oh, these look like they're not going to do the job. They're going to be kind of pinchy. They're not like, probably not going to last very long. And today I looked again and I was like, oh, it looks like they're getting a little bit better. Like, they're now being more accurate in saying like, oh, you're only going to get like a 45-minute charge on this. But it's like, I could probably, I mean, 45 minutes of not doing it manually is probably still decent, depending on if it actually works or not. But I noticed that they now have ones that are shaped like shovels. So rather than having like a push, snowblower with a funnel that shoots it out, they have like ones that are like basically look like almost like weed whackers, but they've got like a shovel down at the bottom, and you kind of just push that, and they're battery powered, and they're supposed to last like 45 minutes on charge. We'll see if that's true or not. So I was like, maybe I'll finally pull the trigger on that, because at least they're nice and they don't take up a whole lot of space. They're not much wider than a regular shovel. And I was like, maybe I'll try it and see what happens. We'll see. Hey, Han Sohai, welcome. As a Java developer for 1.25 years, how'd you get started Java game dev? So I'm not really a Java game dev. I'm just trying to learn how to do Java game development. I just do regular full stack application programming as my day job. And I've been doing that for like 20 some odd years at this point in Java. And so all my experiences around that, Java web applications and full stack and databases and all that stuff. And I just decided, was it last year now, I guess? I just wanted to learn something different. I just wanted to learn how to do Java game dev stuff. I don't really have an end goal per se. I mean, I would like to make a game, but I don't know what that game's going to look like per se. I only have a vague idea. I'm more interested in just being a code monkey right now and just kind of learning what it takes to make an engine and what goes into it and all that stuff. So that's basically what I'm doing right now. I'm just like, I don't work professionally as a game dev or anything like that. I'm just this is just my hobby, pickup right now. And I'm still very, very early into it. There's a lot of stuff I don't understand yet. I'm not fully grasping yet. And I'm a slow learner, so it takes me a while to kind of pull all the things together. So. Spring sucks. I wish people just use more simple web libraries or frameworks. I'm okay with Spring. As long as it's not Spring Boot. I think what sucks about Spring is that there's two things going on that suck with Spring. Spring Boot, and I swear to God, if I find the Spring developer who keeps introducing builder patterns into all their stuff, it might be a two men enter, one man leaves situation. Because that just pisses me off beyond belief. Like, because it breaks the whole idea of Spring, where you can no longer like wire things up properly because they keep throwing builder patterns at you that the Spring framework doesn't handle properly now. And now they're kind of forcing you into doing these weird workarounds just to get things wired up properly and stuff. But other than that, I'm okay with Spring. I think Spring security, man, I don't know what happened to Spring security, but it became a giant freaking mess. So I've been looking at other things beyond Spring security, like Apache and other things like that to just do security stuff, because Spring security is just like, they lost their way somewhere along the way and became just this weird thing that kind of works and then doesn't when you need it the most. Like, you want to do one-time codes, TOTP stuff, good luck. You want to do passkey stuff, good luck. You know, it's like just craziness. And they've pushed themselves so tightly integrated with Spring Boot stuff that it's hard to even set it up in Spring, just regular Spring MVC anymore. And you could do it, but it's just like, it requires a lot of just crazy wiring, and they don't document any of it, so you just kind of have to screw around with it until something seems to work, you know? So when you say Spring sucks, it's more like I don't like annotation-based reflection program. Yeah, the annotation, I like annotation stuff. We still have a lot of the Spring XML hanging around. I think there's a use case for both. Like, I like that I can use either the annotations or the XML, and it just kind of, or both, and it just kind of works. Because there are some cases where XML wiring really, really does make sense, where it makes it clean. Like, we use it a lot for our menuing system in our application, where we define our menus as beans, and then we can just kind of have them all wire up properly with the permissions around them and all that stuff, and just kind of have that all, and it's all nice and compact and easy to to follow and easy to add to when you need to, because that's one of the things you'll change a lot. But for other things like, you know, setting up the controllers and setting up the utility beans and things like that, like the annotation stuff, it's just works really well for that, and I don't mind it so much for that. I honestly don't even mind the Java wiring too much either, where you can do like an app configuration class and wire things up in there, because it does help with, when it comes to IDEs, it helps a little bit, because you can see where things are being referenced a lot easier than trying to remember what XML file out of the dozens you have is where it's defined and everything. But yeah, there's some holdouts in my colleagues as well that are like, don't really like the annotation stuff too much, or or the Java wiring and stuff like that. But I think it's hard to argue with how fast the application starts up and stuff when it doesn't have to parse XML. You know, I've had a couple applications where I eliminate all the XML, and they start up in like a fraction of the time that they do when you have the XML wiring and stuff, which is just, it's crazy that we're this many years into XML and it's still the slowest thing known to man. Annotation reflection-based programming assumes you know the behavior, what goes on behind the scene. Explicitly written code. Sure. But Spring has always kind of had that air of mystique around it too, where you kind of had to know sometimes what it's doing, because you can run into situations where it just doesn't make any sense. Particularly if you have overlapping contexts. You know, like you've got your servlet context and you've got your application context, and sometimes you define a bean in one and then realize you don't have too late that you don't have access to it in the other. There has always been a little bit of black magic in there, and I agree that Spring. I wish Spring was. Spring is very much the 20-ton elephant in the room a lot of times, where it's just like it's popular and it works, but it's got a lot of skeletons in its closet. You know, it's got a lot of things that just are kind of lumbering and you know, they're just sort of decisions that we're now kind of stuck with in many respects of the term. A lot of history, I guess, is what I'm getting at there. But yeah, I understand the frustration with it. I mean, it's taken me years to just wrap my head around half of it, and even I keep running into brick walls where it's like, what the hell's going on here? Why isn't this working? Why isn't that working? You know, why is this binder not firing off? Why is this controller giving me an issue? Why is this method giving me an issue? It still happens. It still happens a lot. Caching is very much a black art. Like, you can use the @cacheable annotation, and then you could be using it for months and then realize it's not actually caching anything. You run your first performance test, it's like, oh, actually, we're not getting any cache hits at all. It's like, well, that's fun. Reputations for suckers. I mean, yeah, I get that nobody likes to do documentation. I understand, but it's when you have a popular library with a huge community, you really got to be on the ball with it. And also, I understand that I think, I honestly, if I were to put my tinfoil hat on for a little bit, I think they purposely make their documentation terrible now because Spring Source is trying to sell consulting work. Like, they make all their money off of consultations and you know, training courses and all that stuff, and they just kind of do a half-assed job with the documentation in the hopes that you'll pay them however much to come in and, you know, come in on site and do a checkup or do some training or all this other bullshit, you know. So that's my tinfoil hat moment for the night. All right, let's see. Also, thank you for the follow too. I appreciate it. So I'm gonna leave the GUI stuff in. I'll just like disable it if necessary. But it looks like they're bringing in. Okay, so I got sound stuff here. Initializing the sounds. And then they're putting that into their engine context, which they're passing around every freaking place, which I just absolutely hate. And they're doing a sound timer. Well, that makes sense. I figured, yeah, you do need a timer just for sound stuff, so you make sure you're playing it at a consistent rate. Okay. So most of their stuff is new classes. So let's do the new classes first, and then we'll integrate them with the with my main area, basically. Bought Janice some hot chocolate at 7-Eleven, added some blackened whiskey to mine. Added too much. I paid for this hot chocolate, I'm drinking it. Is it still hot chocolate or is it mostly whiskey at this point? You want some hot chocolate with that whiskey? Yeah, my brother bought me a bunch of. My brother likes to sort of kind of make me the guinea pig for beer. It's not really the guinea pig, but he knows that I like to. He knows that I've tried out a lot of stuff, and a lot of stuff that I've tried out, I've recommended to him, and because he likes bitter beer, and I like IPAs, but every so often there's an overlap where it's kind of like I could find like a lager or something that he would like, and like I got him on to like Sam Adams cherry wheat and stuff like that. Like he never drank that before, and I was like, here, you probably like this, and he did, and it was like, okay, yeah, it's not bad. Even like cherry, even Sam Adams original, even. So what he does is he'll buy variety packs of all these crazy beers, and he'll just buy them for me at Christmas and be like, here, try these out. Let me know what you think of them. So I've got a whole variety pack of something called Mud Hog, I think it's called, or something to that effect. And so I gotta, it's all cans of beer. So I have to take a perusal through that at some point and see what I think of some of them. But I don't know if he got it for me or someone else got it for me, but I had a variety pack years ago of, I think it was Sam Adams, and in that pack existed something called, I think it was Chocolate Bach, I think was the name of it, and it was, there were two ones in there. There was Chocolate Bach, and then there was some coffee based one. And I tried one of each, and I was like, these are literally the worst things I have ever put into my body. Quite possibly the worst things ever. Like, these are absolutely horrendously bad. And so I brought them, so like, I think there were like two of each in there. So I brought the two that I didn't drink, the coffee one and the chocolate one. I brought them to my brother. I was like, here, try these, see what you like, see if you like them. He's like, oh, I don't know about this. I don't know. I'm like, yeah, just try a little bit of it. It'll be fine. His face was precious. It was just, he was like, these are the worst things ever. Yeah, like this. There's certain things that just certain flavors you just don't want together. Oh, it's about 70-30, huh? So it's not, you're not really drinking hot chocolate at that point. You're drinking whiskey. Which, you know what? Tis the season, I think. I think everyone, I think we've all reached the post family gatherings, or at least close to the post family gatherings part of the season, where I think everyone needs a little bit of something to kind of wash out the familial anxieties, the remaining anxieties. This is the fourth time you open this bottle since 2020. I think it's okay. Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I'd say that's fine. I mean, that's the thing too. I don't really drink that much either. I just maybe once a month, if even that. And usually when I do, it's like I'll like be over my brother's or something and do it, because it's just like I mean, it's something to have in the house. It's something to partake in from time to time. But I've never been a big alcohol dude, or really anything like that. I mean, I've never smoked. I don't have any desire to either, because my lungs are bad enough as it is. Yeah. Alcohol is about the only vice I would have, and even that's barely a blip on the radar there. So, because I don't like the feeling of losing control either. So even when I do drink, I don't drink that much. Like, I'll drink a beer, maybe 2 beers, and not much else. Because I just don't like the feeling of numbness you get from everything else. That being said, IPAs and stuff are usually tend to be higher alcohol by volume than most mainstream beer, so I don't necessarily need to drink as much. So I do find it fine. Like, there's an old, I think, XKCD comic where they talk about he came up with the idea of the Ballmer curve after Microsoft's Steve Ballmer, where it's like he plotted a chart and it's like blood alcohol concentration and productivity, and there was a correlation there at a certain level. Like, yeah, that's pretty accurate. I'd say that's fairly accurate. All right, let's start with what's it called? Sounds buffer. Here, and then I will make a package. I'll just call it sound. Nope, that's new Java class. I don't want that. I want new package. There we go. And we want sound buffer. And actually, you know what? Let me transition the desk back to sitting, because I've been standing for almost 2 hours now. I should probably sit down for a little bit, although I feel good. I don't, nothing hurts, which is nice. But yeah, I don't want to overdo it. So let me, I'm going to mute the mic for a second here so you guys don't hear. It's loud, the desk going up and down. Let me do that real fast. So hang tight. Okay, there we go. I can turn the webcam back on and all that stuff. All right. Got my non-prescription blue blockers on. I've been finding, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's this, I don't know if it's the monitor or something, but I've been finding that I've been getting a lot more, like eye strain, like tiny headaches, like they're not like full blown headaches. They're like the really annoying low key ones. And I think it's due to the eye strain. I've been wearing these at nighttime and it's been helping a bit. So I don't know what's up with that. I don't know if it's just I'm turning into an old bastard or what. My body is finally rebelling against LCD screens after all these years. I don't know what's happening. I'm not going back to CRT, that's for damn sure. I said goodbye and sayonara to those days a long time ago. Got buffer ID. Let's call it ID here. And final short buffer. That. Oh, what we got? Ooh, excuse me. So, I'm taking a file path in to the constructor here. Yeah. So, open a. Oops. You know what? I forgot to tell me of an update. Yeah, and download sources and documentation. All right. So. Oh. Where is this coming from? Oh, AL 1.0. Okay. Gen buffers. All right. Try. Stevie, so this is Og Vorbis stuff. Okay. Which makes sense because Og Vorbis is unencumbered by licensing. This info malloc. Let's see. Buffer. Read Vorbis. Oops. Where's that coming from? Sound buffer. Is that what? Sound buffer? What? Oh, is there a method? Oh, there's a method called read. This is why I don't like when you're doing books like this. You're doing code for books. I don't like when they do static imports for that, because half the time you're like, does this exist in this file, or is it being pulled in by a static import, or it's just it makes for less clarity when you're trying to read the code. That's why I haven't been using any static imports, because I'd like to be able to actually read the code instead of having to roll over everything and be like, where is this coming from now? Where's that going now? Read Vorbis path info. Create that when we come to it. Buffer data ID info dot channels equals 1, then AL, and that AL format mono 16, else AL format stereo 16-bit. PCM buffer info that gets, or info that sample rate. Alright. And that's it for that method. Cool. Public void, clean up. Right here. Oh. We've got AL10. AL delete buffers. This ID. Oh, I need to do ID. If PCM buffer is not equal null, util then free PCM buffer. Private short buffer. Read Vorbis string file path to be Vorbis info. Alright, stack equals memory stack. Stack push. Int buffer. Error. Int 1. Long decoder. So I'm guessing this is AL10 STB. Nope. Where's this coming from? STB Vorbis. STB Vorbis. STB Vorbis. What's Vorbis? Open file name. Path. Error. Null for the buffer. If decoder is null, that's a capital null. Where's that coming from? Oh, memory util.null. Okay. Oh. You runtime exception. Fail to open. For this file. Error. This, and then we'll do file path. An error that gets 0. Crap. Crap, this is exception, so %s. %s. Formatted. There you go. B Vorbis get info order info channels. Length in samples. Okay. We're locating and alloc short sample length times channels. So that's what we're, that's going to be the buffer that is holding the audio, I'm guessing. Results dot limit. Do I have a GitHub? Yes. It is. Let me pull it up here. Share in Twitch chat. Okay. Nope, that's YouTube chat. Twitch chat. There we go. There you go. Limit. STB Orbis, STB Orbis. Get samples short interleaved. Okay. I think one of the most successful games made with Java are Minecraft and Slay the Spire. Yeah, there's actually quite a few games that have been made with Java that probably people don't even realize have been made with Java. But yeah, and one of the things I'm interested in digging into, we'll see how successful it is, but the newer versions of Java here have a way to package up all of your, so like, because we have modules and stuff now, you can now package up all your code into an executable, and that executable has the parts of the JVM that you actually need to run your code. And basically, instead of people having to instead of you either having to write code to download the correct JVM to people's computers, or people having to download the JVM to their computers, instead it's all right there in one executable file, and it just looks just like any other, executable around. And I think you can it will literally only run your game. It's not like a regular JVM where it will run anything. So I'm interested in trying to get that part to work, because you get that to work and really there's no indication then at that point that that it's written in Java, because Java gets a lot of a bad rep a lot of times, and some of it's justified. Certainly, any language that's been around as long as Java's been around is eventually going to fall out of style, fall out of flavor. But especially a lot of people complain about Minecraft and how it's, how memory hungry it is and all this stuff, and how, as they're sitting there with the 200th mod loading, they're like, oh, this is slow, this is terrible, it's like, oh, I mean, look at what you're doing, but I think there's I'm excited to see if this stuff works that way, because it will make things, it'll make the packaging of it and everything just so much cleaner, at least from the user's perspective. It's going to give me gray hair, probably. But the users will have a little bit easier time with it, because it also comes with like almost like an install shield like installer and stuff for Windows, and on Linux and stuff it's just, you just use your regular package manager. So I'd like to see how that, I'm curious to see if all that works out well or not. A successful game made in Java was obviously RuneScape. I mean, yeah, RuneScape is in Java as well. There's a game called Shadow Watch. This is interesting. I ran across, when I was looking at like games written in Java, because I was just curious about it. There was a game called Shadow Watch, which was like a top-down sort of strategy game. Not well known, but it was a fully packaged, game out there. And it was written in Java, and I was curious about it, so I was like, oh, let me go see if I can find it. I found a copy, like a sealed copy of it on eBay, or not eBay, maybe it was eBay. I don't remember where I found it, but I found a sealed copy of it in the box and everything, and popped the CD in, and I was like, let me go look to see like how it's structured and everything. And I thought for sure that they would have, compiled it without debug symbols or anything else turned on, production, compile, and everything. No, it was completely readable. Like they had all the debug symbols still turned on and everything. So like I could pop it into an IDE, and it could reverse engineer it immediately and show me it was all written in Java 1.2. So I could see all the code in the game and everything. I was like, wow, this is actually kind of fascinating. I'm glad that they didn't they didn't obfuscate it or anything like that. Because it's kind of fascinating to see how all this is put together and see all the old, they're using vectors and all kinds of stuff. The old vector classes instead of lists and everything else. So it was interesting to see that. And they were using, I believe, Swing for all the graphical user interface stuff. So yeah, it was interesting. And we don't support Windows around these parts. It's fun doing that with current games. Yeah, it is. It really is. It's fun to just see how things have been put together. And one of the other things I want to do with this engine, I want to see what it would be like, but I kind of want to put, once I get a lot of stuff in place, I want to kind of put it through its paces. So one of the things I want to do is there's a scene that Unreal Engine uses that you can load up that like to test Unreal Engine. Like it's got a bunch of lighting and all that stuff in it. I eventually wanted to see if I can load that up and see if I could even get it to look even halfway decent. And it's free, I think. You can just kind of download it and take a look at it. But one of the other things is there's a game. So Free Space, Descent Free Space 2, or Descent, I think it was just Descent Free Space. Volition, when they went out of business, or I guess they're out of business, or they were, at some point along the way, they put the source code up on GitHub for Descent Free Space, and they put a license on it that says you can't do it for commercial purposes and all that stuff. And there's a group of people years ago that took a look at that code, brought it down, and started improving it to make it more accessible to various modders who wanted to make their own free games, and also to bring it up to speed. Like I think it was like an older DirectX, and they brought it up to a newer version of DirectX and all that stuff. And I've always had in the back of my mind the idea, and what got me onto that whole engine was not only you could play Descent Free Space on it, but also there's a couple like modded games. Like there was a whole community built game called I think it was Wing Commander. I forget the name of it now. It was like a community built Wing Commander game that was actually really, really good. It's something I played very early on my channel, years and years and years ago, on my main YouTube channel, not on live streams. And I've, for the longest time, wanted to see if I could do that same thing in Java, like take that code that's there and make it run on Java. And now I'm my thought was I would just look at the C code and I would translate over to Java. But now that I have an engine that I'm working on independently, like really all I need to do now is just kind of look at how can I look at the code that loads up their models and loads up their sounds and loads up all the images and stuff, and then write code that can read all those files, and then write code that can read their mission scripting files, which their mission scripting files from what I saw were just kind of free-form sort of, but they were just kind of like, you know, keywords and text kind of thing, like a very basic scripting language. And I was kind of wondering if I could bring some of that, like write some code that could parse some of that stuff out if you have it on your machine, and then see if my engine can handle that stuff too, and use those things as sort of a measuring stick, a high watermark, if you will, and see how close or how far away I am from something, you know, production worthy kind of thing. You'd be surprised how many Steam games don't obfuscate their code. Yeah, I mean, a lot of Steam games too. I mean, we're in an era now where a lot of people are. You've got so many independent games, and I don't know if AAA's fall into this category too. They might, but you know, a lot of these indie games written by people who know how to use Unreal Engine tools, they know how to use Godot tools, they know how to use Unity, but they don't necessarily know programming per se. They know how to use the tools, they know enough programming to get by with the engine that exists, you know, to script in the engine, but they don't know, say, the basic concepts of programming per se, for want of a better term there. And so it wouldn't surprise me if a lot of them didn't even think to like check off whatever checkbox they needed to like obfuscate the code that's there, or bring down whatever plugin they needed to bring down to obfuscate the code for them and all that stuff. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me if there's a lot of that going on. Yeah. Here we have decoder, channels, results times channels. So we're getting get samples short interleaves, so it's getting a samples times number of channels. Okay, in the file. All right. Result.limit. So what does limit do? Sets the buffer's limits. The position is larger than the new limit, then is set to the new limit if the mark is defined. Okay, alright. I got it. It's basically saying, here's how big we want this buffer to be able to read the next audio sample in for however many channels are defined in the audio sample, to be able to then play it. Let's see, STB Vorbis. Vorbis close the decoder. And return result. And that's it. The only other thing is get ID, which I'll let the IDE generate for me. No. Alright. That's sound buffer. What else do we got here? Sound listener. I can open and set their both lined up here. Where am I at? Sound. There you go. Sound listener. Right. And got position, orientation. So I'm guessing this is, so is listener, I guess we'll have to see. Is listener the taking up the camera position, so you are the listener, or is it saying where the sound source is coming from? Because there's going to be drop off in the sound as you get further away from the source. So I'm trying to figure out if the listener is the listener that they're determining where to drop off should be, or if it's actual sound source. I don't know why they would call it a listener if it was the source, but there's already been some weird things anyway in here. Vector 3F position. Listener 3F. L10L position. Position.x, position.y, position.z. So what does this say here? AL listener 3F. Sets the three-dimensional float values of a listener parameter. That doesn't tell me much. Okay. Thanks a lot, documentation. AL listener 3F. So we got position and velocity. Okay. So we know how quickly it's going to drop off, I guess. Velocity 0, 0, 0. So it's not moving at all. When we first start, anyway. Public void set orientation. Do 3F at and up. I guess up is the normal. Float. What are we doing? That only take a. It does. Oh, okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. X, Y, Z, up X, up Y, Z, and L, and L, listener. FV, right. Now, orientation, yeah. Void, set position. Oh, 10L. Listener 3F. Position. X. Y. C. I wonder why we're not saving any of this stuff. Are they constantly creating new sound listeners, or are they just not? Just for a test here, we're not going to move the sound listener. Just curious as to why we don't have any like member variables or anything like that. Because these seem like these would be changing. They have a set speed and they don't even call it, so that's a thing. 3F speed. So 3F velocity. Speed X, speed Y, speed Z. Yeah, that's sound listener. Sound manager has got a little bit more stuff behind it. Okay. That's what I said. Contexts. Yeah. String. Sound buffer. Sound source. Oh, there is a sound source. Okay, I just haven't gotten to that yet. Go and edit sound listener. That's probably why they haven't set the listener speed or anything, because they don't want, or maybe they don't set it again. They only set it once, that you always hear the sound regardless of where you're at. Just for the demo here. Sound manager. What's in here? You're just saying there's the new hash map, so just set them. Okay, so that device is out. probably ALC. ALC. Great. Nope. Where's this coming from? ALC10. Okay. Create contexts. Nope. 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 Nice. Oh, I jumped. Wait, where am I? Oh, I'm looking down here. That's context. That's not what I want. That's why it's ALC context. Okay. I jumped forward here. ALC 10 ALC open device. For no. If device memory util no. That is memory util no, right? Yeah. Throw new eagle state exception. Oops. Failed to open the defaults. Open AL device. LC AL capabilities. Device capabilities. ALC.create capabilities for the device. This.contexts. ALC10. ALC create context device. Int buffer no. If contexts equals memory till no. Row new state exception. To create open AL contexts. Making the context the current one. Okay. LC10. So make context current. Create capabilities. Nice capabilities. No, it doesn't like here. LC capabilities. Doesn't it like here? Required type is ALC capabilities. What? Oh, you're kidding me. They have a class called AL capabilities and a class called ALC capabilities. That's just bad. I mean, I get it. One is the context capabilities and one is the OpenAL capabilities, but that's still bad. Bad naming conventions. Okay. Public void. Add sound buffer. So sound buffer map puts name buffer. Void add sound source. Source map puts main source. Okay. Clean up. Void clean up. Source map values each. Buffer map values for each. That and clearing out the maps too. I mean, I guess I don't know why you would need to clear them out, but whatever. Sound source map clear. Sound buffer map clear. If context does not equal util.null, ALC then ALC destroy contexts. If device does not equal util null, ALC 10 ALC close device. Okay. And public sound source, get sound source by name, and sound source map, get name. Void pause string source ID. Sound source. Source map get source ID. What? Why are they doing that? Just why not just call the method you already got here? Like they've got a method get sound source that's not even called. In fact, pause is not even called either. Source ID if source equals null. I didn't put a logger in here, did I? No. Warn unknown source. Okay. Have play here. Void play. Sound source. Source ID. If source is no, one. Source ID. Go. Let's see. Return that. Sound buffer. Get buffer ID. If buffer is null, warn, no buffer for D. Immediately return. Otherwise, source set buffer get D source dot play. Done there. They got a play sound source and remove sound source. Again, they're not even calling these. Why are they? You've got a play already. Why do you have a play sound source and a remove sound source? Not sound source is playing. Shouldn't we be checking to see if it's not playing here? I'm not going to put those in there because they're not being used. In fact, stop isn't even being used, but I'll put stop in there at least. If they're used later on, we'll just put them in later on. They're not very big. Void set 10 relation model. AL10 AL distance model. Void set listener. Sound listener. List that listener. Listener. Alright. That's just a regular setter. Void. Stop. Source. ID. Source map. Get source ID. If sound source is null. One. Source. Okay, return source stop. And update listener position. Oh, this takes the camera class. Okay. Yeah, so the camera is the listener now. Makes sense. Update listener position. Camera, matrix 4F view, matrix, camera, get view matrix. So listener, set position, camera gets position. After 3F. 3F and matrix positive Z at the gate. Our up is vector 3F. Matrix positive Y for up. That into the up, I mean. Snare, set orientation at and up. Okay. And that's the end of that class. You know, most of it's not even being used. And I just have a lot of, I need sound source. Then all those errors will go away. So source, that's the next one here, right? Yeah, it's all brand new. There we go. Static final logger. Private final int D. Public sound source. Boolean loop. Boolean relative. This ID is AL10AL gen sources. 10AL source I. ID 10L loop, oops, L one, L looping, loop is, if loop is set then set to L true, L10L false. Then this is source relative, so that's the other, it's the relative thing there. Source relative, and then this is relative there. True or false. Okay, setting those up. So cleanup. Public void cleanup. Stop, and then L10L delete sources ID. public when is playing turn L 10 L get source I ID L 10 L source state rules L10 L play. Alright. Void pause. This is just calling the OpenAL library, just pause sources and all that based on the ID that we give it. It's pretty straightforward. Probably one of the more straightforward libraries we've used at this point. Play, and yet pretty powerful too. Source play ID. Set buffer. Buffer ID. Stop and then. Okay, well, have a good night. I suspect you'll sleep pretty well with all that hot chocolate in you. And I hope you do. I hope you get a good night. Hope everything goes well. And see you when you're live next. So have a good night. 70-30. L10 L source I D L10 L buffer ID. Public void set gain, which they don't even call. Which has me a little bit concerned that when I play this music or play this sound or whatever it's going to be, that's going to blow our ears out. But we'll roll with it here. AL10 L source F ID AL10 L gain. Position, vector 3F position, L source 3F, ID, L10L position, position.x, position.y, position.z. Okay, and public void stop L10L source stop ID. Boom. Okay. Takes care of all the errors in the sound manager. And that's all the new stuff. So all we gotta do is, what I'm thinking is all we gotta do is changes to main here. So pull up, which will be changes to Vulkan engine for me. So main. They start changing that all the way up top. So timer. Oh, is this... Did I open the wrong chapter? This is a problem. Yeah, I did. There we go. Alright. Vulcan... Engine... So what do we got here? Sound buffer... Music... Private, static, final, float, or nope, final, string, sound, buffer, music, buffer, player, source, music, source, player, and sound timer, private, long, sound timer. What else did they change? They created a init sounds. They call init sounds from from init. Okay, so init sounds. Right there. Do private void init sound and sound manager. Manager. So let's do. That in here, this dot sound manager. New sound manager. Where do they probably do it in engine context, right? Engine. Yeah, just do new sound manager. Okay, I don't do anything else to it. Okay. Okay. Sound manager. Camera. I do have. No, I can get the camera from the scene. Well, we have the set camera start state, right? Yeah, scene, get camera. Yeah, okay, that's fine. So init sound. We're doing camera equals scene, get camera. Good. And so sound manager, set attenuation, model AL11 this time, AL exponent distance, So I'm not sure why they're doing AL11 here and AL10 on the other things, but whatever. Sound manager. Set listener is new sound listener. Camera get position. Sound buffer. New sound buffer. Let's do a thing here. Private static final string sound. File 1. Creek 1, private static final string, sound file 2. Ooh, scary. Ugh. That's a sound buffer. We want sound file 1. And sound manager, add sound buffer player. Buffer. Sound source. Sound source. Sound source. False. False. Sound source set position. New vector 3F 0F 0F 0F. Sound source set buffer get ID. Sound manager, add sound source player. There's sound source. Okay. Buffer, music buffer, sound buffer, sound file 2, sound manager, add sound buffer. Sound buffer music. Oops, not buffer. Source. Music source is new. Sound source. True for loop and relative. Music source set buffer. Music buffer get ID. Manager add sound source. Sound source music. Music source. Alright. And then they immediately start playing the music. Okay. Music source dot play. Alright, that's being called from init sounds. It's after the camera stuff is set up, which makes sense. So we'll just do init sound there. Alright, and then what else did they change in here? So that's init sounds. So then update listener position camera. That's in the inputs. Right, that would make sense. So what I need to do then is I'm going to make Sound Manager a singleton, which I think is fair enough. Yeah, so we're going to do private static sound manager. Manager, and I'm going to make this private and do public static sound manager get instance. What are we going to pass in here? Oh, nothing. There's no parameters to pass in. Good. So we'll just say if sound manager is null, then sound manager equals new sound manager. Return sound manager. Bam. Okay. So I come back here. Oops, that's not what I want it. Here, the engine. I don't need this anymore. That's all. It wouldn't hurt to put it in there. Actually, no, I don't. I can just put it up here. Equals sound manager get instance. I can just use it as normal anyway. And then I'll just have the same instance when we go into the keyboard handler, which is camera input callback here. And so they're doing under input for them. Whenever the camera moves, update listener position with the camera. Although they're updating it even if the camera didn't move. I guess it doesn't matter if the camera didn't move, so. Although I'm going to do it properly here, so. Well, I mean, it'll update whenever you press any keys, but yeah, that's fine. That's fine. So I do sound manager, get instance, update listener position, camera. There we go. And then what else? Got under updates. Okay, they're updating the sound timer. So update, when do they call updates? Okay, so that's their logic updates, right? That makes sense. So I have a game logic method here somewhere. Well, if I was in the right place. Where is it at? Look down here. Here it is, game logic. This is called from should render logic. Is that what they're calling it basically? Basically, okay. So game logic, so in here, oops, oh, stop that. So in here, we're just updating the sound timer. Ooh. So this freaking diff time milliseconds is gonna burn my ass every single time here. Update render. Nano time. Last logic update timer. Update time, yeah. What are they What are they even using it for? They're doing game logic updates. Sound timer is greater than 5 milliseconds. Or I'm sorry, it's greater than 5 seconds. Then play. Oh, they're playing, okay. They're playing a sound every 5 seconds. That's all they're doing it for. Okay. Sure. I'm not gonna restructure how this works because of that thing. Basically in here, what I'll do is I'll just say this dot no if sound timer greater than timer diff equals system that current time milliseconds minus minus sound timer. Right. If timer diff is greater than 5,000, then sound manager play sound source player sound buffer player. Okay. And what I'll do here is, before we get into game logic, I'll set sound timer before this loop. Sound timer equals system.current time milliseconds. Like that. And that should pretty much accomplish the same thing, kind of, sort of. The only thing is, I need to, after I play that, I need to set the sound timer equal to system current time milliseconds. Kind of reset it. Alright. Well, I believe that's everything for this chapter. I mean, it's a relatively small amount of code here. But it looks like that might be everything. So let's just see. First of all, let's make sure it builds. Build projects. I didn't miss anything along the way. It didn't. Alright, well, I guess we're gonna have to pause the music for a second. Or at least turn the music down here. Let me bring the audio in from the computer. And let's see what happens. It crashes. Oh, I forgot to copy the files over. Well, that would explain that. Oops. Where's this at? Where are your files? That's chapter 12. That's not what I want to look at. Chapter 13. Resources. Sounds. I'll just copy that whole sounds folder. I'll put that up here. Okay. Let's try that again. Okay. There's a little creak sound that happens every 5 seconds. Well, that appears to be working. Move away. We don't get the creaking sound anymore. Oh, we get it as we get closer and closer, you can hear it. I need to get this to not move quite so fast. I can't control it. That's awesome. All right. Well, we have audio. Cool. Very cool. It's low key audio, but it's atmospheric. At least got sound effects going off, and we got a little music track going. Cool. Let's just, for the sake of argument, let's run the books version, make sure I'm not way off for some reason. Oh, sounds like very similar. Oh yeah, you can hear how loud it is at 0, 0 there. And how low it gets further away. That's funny. Okay, cool. All right, I think we did that. I think we did it. Let's get some music back. All right, good. Very good, my friends. So I'd say chapter 13 is done. It was a nice short one. And it is working. So let's go get commit directory, chapter 13 finished. Here's all the stuff we're committing. Yeah, cool. Commit and push. And there it is. It should be out there now. Yep, chapter 13 finished just now. All right. So what's up for tomorrow? Chapter 14. What is that doing? Oh, we're getting into deferred rendering and shading and stuff. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, render. Actually, this one doesn't. That despair is exactly the same result as the previous chapter. I will dramatically improve the visuals. Okay. So it looks like this is kind of the lead into it, where visually there's not going to be much of a change, if at all. It does look like there's a decent amount there. I think chapter 15 had a crazy amount, which is deferred rendering 2, where we get into PBR, which is physicality based rendering. We gotta do different we gotta read in more properties from the materials, from the object files. Got lighting, scene render modifications, a lot more in terms of shaders, looks like. Light stage modifications, yeah, this one. So chapter 15 is going to be a bear, probably. It looks like there's quite a lot there, and there might be quite a bit in 14 as well. So the next two chapters are going to be significant, but we'll get some noticeable changes at least. What about 16? 16 is just cascading shadows. Okay. So, yeah. So hopefully we'll be able to get started on... We'll definitely get started on chapter 14 tomorrow night. I don't know if we'll finish chapter 14, but we'll at least get started. I might also start on it before the stream as well, and see if I can get a decent amount of it done there, because it would be nice if we can get at least start to dip our toes into chapter 15 and just kind of keep on rolling here. We only have really 6 more chapters left, because 21 is not finished, which is ray tracing. 20 is multi-threading, which I really definitely want to see what's involved with that. I suspect we don't have to change too much to do it, but it's definitely going to have to be something there. And then also Appendix 1, which has some troubleshooting device loss errors. I like to be able to add that code in for troubleshooting things and extensions and stuff. I'll at least look at it to see if it makes any sense. But yeah, I think we're rapidly coming to a point where I can no longer rely on this book to kind of help me. I'm going to have to start going off on my own and finding other sources of information for what to do next and how to get there next. Also, obviously, I want to do a big refactoring when we get to the end of this book and just kind of like go through and make things. First of all, I want to get rid of all the OpenGL stuff that I still have left in there because I'm not going to do any of that, and just restructure it to a point where it kind of feels better to me. See if there's places in the code that I can kind of work on a little bit. Because it does feel like mine is maybe a little bit stuttery at times when it's moving, whereas the book's code is not quite stuttering as much. So I might be doing something in a weird spot because I've changed the way things kind of work here and there. Maybe I'll hopefully throw a profiler at it and see what the profiler says as far as the slow spots and everything and hot spots and all that. But yeah, we're getting to a point where it's going to get it's going to slow down a lot, but it's also going to get a lot more, I think, interesting. I mean, obviously there's going to be a lot of sessions where I'm just coding and there's nothing visual to be seen, but hopefully, I'll be able to iterate a little bit more and actually see changes happen on screen and just do little bits and pieces here, and maybe it'll be a little bit more visual and stuff. So we'll see and all that. Anyway, my friends, that'll do it for me for tonight. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. If you happen to run across this on the YouTubes and you have a like and or subscribe that you can spare and maybe toss my way, that would be really awesome and swell. It helps out tremendously and I appreciate it greatly. Otherwise, I'll be back tomorrow night with some more coding. I will not have any streams Sunday night because I have to, well, we'll see, but I'm pretty sure Sunday I'll be at a family gathering unless for whatever reason that gets canceled or moved depending on what the weather is. So I'll most likely not have any streams Sunday, but I'll be back to relatively normal streaming next week, starting Monday, at nighttime, those kinds of things. But yeah, we'll see. And I'll probably be making a lot of progress on this off camera in the next week because I'm still off from work, and so it gives me I have time now to like actually pay attention to it and stuff, and I don't feel like I'm burning out or anything. So cool beans. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. I hope everyone has an excellent morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on what it is for you. I hope to see you back here again in the future for some more stuff, whatever happens to suit your fancy. Until then, see you, bye.
I suppose by the transit of property, I too must be Vulcan as a motherfucker.